Yeah, when we started, it was a ride-hailing business, and that was around for maybe 6 years. Half the life of the company was very much on the ride-hailing. When we were competing with Uber head-to-head in a lot of the countries in Southeast Asia. And really the turning point for us was when we actually acquired Uber's operation in Southeast Asia. So Uber Rides became Grab, and Uber Eats became Grab Food, which is our food delivery. And actually that was the turning point when we started to say, you know what, we have more scale. In our business, scale is really important because it drives efficiency. We started to add other products, but it's all one tech stack.
Wow, that's crazy. Is this thing on?
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Welcome back to Run the Numbers. I just got to interview the CFO of Grab, Peter Oey. I've wanted to go deep into the super app business model for so long, and I finally found the guy. We go deep into Grab's business model, its evolution over time, and why the super app model works so well in Southeast Asia. Why is that region primed for it to succeed? If he sees the super app model succeeding in Western markets, and how fintech and banking services drive the flywheel effect for Grab. They've taken this really cool layer cake strategy with financial services. He talks about where it starts. And one of my favorite metrics to track, monthly transacting users, MTU, and how it's important to get them on multiple apps within the ecosystem. We also talk more broadly about Southeast Asia as a tech hub. It often gets overlooked as a region for tech talent and innovation. He gives us an update on what's going on in the region. And for those looking to either sell into Southeast Asia or start a company there, how are demographic and economic trends boosting tech innovation across the region? And what can Western companies learn from Grab's approach there? Peter is a smart guy, and boy, does he bring the energy. I want to work for a guy like Peter someday. Peter, can I be you when I grow up? All right, all this and much, much more after a short word from our sponsors. And you give us 5 stars, please, 5 stars. Trust isn't earned, it's demanded. Whether you're a startup founder navigating your first audit or a seasoned security professional scaling your GRC program, proving your commitment to security has never been more critical or complex. That's where Vanta comes in. Businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance needs across over 35 frameworks, like SOC 2 and ISO 27001. Centralized security workflows, complete questionnaires up to 5 times faster, and proactively manage vendor risk. Vanta not only saves you time, it can also save you money. A new IDC white paper found that Vanta customers achieve $535,000 per year in benefits, and the platform pays for itself in just 3 months. Join over 9,000 global companies like Atlassian, Cora, and Factory, who use Vanta to manage risk and improve security in real time. For a limited time, our audience gets $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/metrics. That's vanta.com/metrics for $1,000 off. Here's a question. Do you feel like you're wasting time and energy on contract renewals or tracking shadow IT spend or, this is a bad one, explaining rising software costs to the board? Truth is, traditional spend management is broken. That's where Tropic comes in. Tropic is an intelligent spend management solution that consolidates your spend data and processes into one unified offering, enabling insights and decisive action. It doesn't just show you where the problems are, it helps you solve them. From spotting hidden optimization opportunities like duplicative spend to automating those painful procurement workflows to giving you the best market data that turns every vendor negotiation in your favor. I'm a Tropic customer myself. I've been using them for over a year, and I love their price checks. They allow me to see if I'm getting a fair market deal instantly. And I'm proud to say that I am no longer using my email as our company's contract repository. I've got every document and renewal neatly organized in my Tropic portal. Isn't it time to turn spend management into your competitive advantage? Visit tropicapp.io/mostlymetrics to see what's possible when intelligence drives your decisions. tropicapp.io/mostlymetrics. Does your revenue recognition process feel like a total guessing game? Step right up and pick a card, any card. You're not alone. Revenue accounting is getting more complex, especially with subscription models, usage-based billing, and evolving compliance standards. Woohoo! RightRev is here to help you gain control over your revenue accounting. RightRev automates the revenue recognition process from end to end. Whether it's multi-element arrangements, subscription renewals, or complex usage-based contracts, RightRev takes care of it all. That means fewer spreadsheets, fewer errors, and more time for your team to focus on growth. Customers like Snowflake, Logic Monitor, and Epicor chose RightRev to manage their high volume and complex revenue accounting. CFOs can see the bigger picture faster without being held up by their team's reporting nightmares. You know me, I'm a business model fanatic. And don't get me wrong, I love all the evolutions. We've got self-serve revenue, usage-based revenue, and now even success-based revenue, you name it. But that doesn't make it any easier for us bean counters on the back end to keep score. RightRev is like a cheat code for staying ahead of revenue complexities. So you're ready to transform your revenue accounting? Visit RightRev.com to schedule a demo. That's RightRev.com and tell them your boy CJ sent. RightRev, modern revenue recognition simplified. Oh yeah. Peter, welcome to the Run the Numbers podcast. So I'm a huge fan of business. I think it's cool to get excited about business models, about metrics, etc. And so I jumped at the opportunity to interview you and learn about Grab's business model because you've been a pioneer in this super app space. And it's something like in the US that I think we hear about a lot. And we're like, is somebody going to start a super app? Is it possible to do it? And I feel like you've largely nailed the model. So what I wanted to start off talking about it first is, what is Grab's business model? And then maybe we can touch on how it's evolved over time.
Sure, yeah. Let me ask you first, have you been to Southeast Asia?
No, not yet. It's on my bucket list.
Oh, you got to check it out. You got to check it out. When we have 11 countries in Southeast Asia, roughly 20,000 islands, 660 million people, full of diversity, culture, food, all different types of food, lots of beaches, because we have lots of islands also at the same time. Now, you got a bit of traffic. Traffic is a little bit gnarly in Southeast Asia. It's a bit like Los Angeles. Sometimes it's worse because people don't stick to their lanes in Southeast Asia. But really, if you think about it, why Southeast Asia is so unique to Grab, and we only operate in Southeast Asia. We operate in 8 countries, 700 cities, is that when we started the business, we were trying to solve, this is 13 years ago, we were trying to solve for safety. Now, when you think about, safety, because for a lot in Southeast Asian countries, in the cities, it's not the safest place to catch public transport. It's not the safest place also to catch taxis, especially for women. And that's how the company was birthed. It was actually started by solving safety, especially for women, and it started in a city called Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia itself. And that's where our first ride-hailing business was really born. And from there, we added from taxi to private cars, etc. And we just grew from city to city. Now, the super app that you mentioned earlier actually was birthed much later, actually, in our evolution of our business. And that came out from just customer feedback. Like they wanted other products also into the other services that we have today. So what's a super app? And the super app really is multiple products. Like you can have 10 products, but all residing in one app. So in our business today, 13 years later, what do we have in terms of products? We have ride-hailing, 2 wheels, 3 wheels, 4 wheels. We have buses. We have party buses, like the party. We have shuttles. So any wheels, basically, we want to transport people throughout Southeast Asia. And also we have delivery services. So we do food delivery, grocery delivery, you want pharmacy delivery, you want courier packaging delivery, everything on demand. The same app. This is literally the same app that you use today. And then also we added financial services products. So you want to make digital payments using GrabPay, which is our digital payment wallet system. Kind of think of it like Apple Pay. We have that too. We also have insurance products. We have lending products. We also have banking products also within our ecosystem. So that's quite unique because you have multiple touch points that you monetize the customer journey flow. And that's what makes it very unique. So if I was trying to simplify it in the US, think of it if you had kind of Uber plus DoorDash plus PayPal plus SoFi, kind of all in one app, right? Not 4 app, 5 app, all in one app, which is kind of unique. So you have the multiple touch points with the customers every single day and lots of intervals within the day itself.
From the outside looking in, that sounds like an immense undertaking. But I guess hearing the story, it sounds like it was very methodical and you layered on products over time as consumers pulled you in that direction.
That's right, CJ. Yeah, when we started, it was a ride-hailing business, and that was around for maybe 6 years. Half the life of the company was very much on the ride-hailing. And really the turning point for us was when we were competing with Uber head-to-head in a lot of the countries in Southeast Asia. And there was a season where there was truce and Uber put out the white flag, and we actually acquired Uber's operation in Southeast Asia. So Uber Rides became Grab, and Uber Eats became Grab Food, which is our food delivery. And actually, that was the turning point when we started to say, you know what, we have more scale. In our business, scale is really important because it drives efficiency. We started to add other products, but it's all one tech stack. That's the difference. We just didn't build different tech stacks with it, because to drive this efficiency and the leverage using the same tech stack, and we just added more products into these particular apps that we have, the multi-apps. So you have mini apps within an app.
Wow, that's crazy. I want to dig into something that you said, Peter, and that's the geographic layout of Southeast Asia and the super app model working well there. Listening to you describe how diverse it is, how many different places there are, my head goes to, how do you possibly operationalize that? But it actually seems like Grab is well suited for Southeast Asia in particular. So why does the supermodel app work so well in the countries that you operate in today?
Sure, yeah. The way we've taken the approach actually is a very localized version, which means that when we go into a city, we adapt to what the customers need. So again, because it's so diverse, Southeast Asia, and the way the infrastructure also in each city is quite different, we had to adapt to those cities. And what we've done is we've gone into a city, we've localized the product to what the city wants, etc. We've got boots on the ground also, and that's really critical. One of our actually competitive moat is to really localize that user experience for the customer. But also because we're a marketplace, also we need to recruit drivers. Also on our platform, we have to recruit merchants on our platform also, and that touch and the local touch with the specific city is really important. So we've done a fantastic job in doing that. Now it's taken a lot of years to do that, but that's part of our competitive moat in Southeast Asia, just able to really penetrate. So if you think about on scale, let me give you maybe some numbers. We operate in 8 countries, 700 cities. We have roughly 6 million registered drivers on our platform today. We have 6 million roughly merchants on our platform, 42 million monthly transacting users on our platform. Those are every month. So 42 million Southeast Asians are using one of our products in our super app today. We do roughly about 10 million transactions a day through our app today. So, we have size, we have scale in Southeast Asia itself, but that took a lot of years to build also, because that localness is really important. Actually, if you think about how we were able to really take on Uber back in the early years was really our point of differentiation was really able to localize the product much more versus taking more of a global approach that some of our peers do today.
And just to put the monthly transacting users into perspective for listeners, 42 million is such a large number. I was doing the back of the envelope. So Spain's population is 48 million. Italy's is 58 million. That's a ton of people, Peter.
Yeah, it is a ton of people. But yet, Southeast Asia has 660 million people.
And I think people don't realize how big Southeast Asia is, because you start to add up all the islands, you start to add up all the different major cities in the area. Like, it gets big real quick.
Exactly, yeah. The other fascinating point, CJ, is that half of Southeast Asian population, the 660 million people, about half of them are under the age of 30.
Oh, wow. That's a really young population.
Exactly, right? You've got a population base which is very young. They're actually quite digital savvy, right? Because if you look at it, most Southeast Asians skipped in the web. Like didn't exist to them. The infrastructure wasn't there back in the web days, and then people just went straight to smartphones. Yeah. So, and that goes to also some of the question you asked earlier about the super app. Why is it different in Southeast Asia? Because people just lived on phones from the get-go. And you've got this digital savvy population also, which is rising, and the income also is rising, which just is so used to dealing with whatever's on your phone at the end of the day. So it's a really interesting dynamic part of the world here that people don't understand or realize sometimes.
Yeah, they didn't grow up with a dial-up connection on broadband internet like I did. I can still hear the noise in my head at my parents' house when it would dial up. But that's super fascinating, because I think that's one of the reasons why the super app model succeeds so well, because people are digital natives to applications. Like they skipped the whole PC wave. Well, to link that to Western markets, because I think it's so fascinating of how you're saying if you took Uber Eats, SoFi, PayPal all together, I think like in Western markets, we think that would be so cool, but it would be almost impossible to build at this point. Do you see the super app model succeeding in Western markets? And I guess there could be the consideration of like how hard would it be to build from a tech perspective, but also like user behavior. Maybe it's more in the consumer's hands of like they're just not used to that.
Exactly, CJ. I think and I spent a lot of time in the US. I think it's people are just so used to having this fragmented suite of apps on their phones, one for e-commerce, one for payments, one for ride hailing, one for food delivery. And people are just so used to that. And also people transacting both on the web and then going to their phone and vice versa. I think the customer behavior is just so ingrained in that. And also that's one part from the customer journey experience. The other side also is you've got really the tech stack, right? People, when we built the Amazons of the world, even the Ubers of the world, when they built the tech stack, it was built for more about monolithic or one product, two products at max at the end of the day, right? So that's also the other consideration. So I think it's a combination of those things that makes it a little bit harder for the US to move to more of a super app concept.
Hey, thanks for listening. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Ready to plan confidently, close faster, and report with accuracy? Here's what sets Planful apart. Imagine purpose-built solutions for every department, from FP&A to accounting, marketing to HR, all with built-in financial intelligence. It's easy to implement Planful in just weeks with minimal IT involvement, enabling seamless collaboration across your organization's key financial workflows. Best of all, Planful grows with you. Its unmatched scalability ensures that no matter how fast your business expands, Planful can keep up. See why over 1,500 customers worldwide choose Planful as their flexible, user-friendly, end-to-end financial performance management platform. Visit planful.com/metrics to see how you can elevate your team this year with Planful. They will hook you up. It is planful.com/metrics. Tell them your boy CJ sent you. Planful.com/metrics. Well, if you've listened to this podcast before, you definitely know that I think it's cool to be a fan of business. I'm obsessed with researching how the best companies operate and specifically how they manage their money. And I've learned that a company's financial stack can make the difference between world domination and obscurity. That's why I want to tell you about Brex, because I want you to rule the world. Brex is an impressive financial services and software company that has grown immensely since it was founded in 2017. In just the last year alone, Brex accelerated customer acquisition by 50%, with 91% growth in enterprise customers. And there's good reason that over 30,000 companies from startups to enterprises have flocked to Brex. Brex offers the world's smartest corporate card on a full-stack global platform that is everything CFOs need to manage their finances on an elite level. Plus, they offer modern banking and treasury, as well as intuitive expenses and accounting automation, bill pay, and travel. Wow, it's all in the roster whenever you need it. Brex grows with you. CFOs tell me all the time that Brex makes it easy to control spend before it happens, automate annoying tasks, and optimize their finances. Because listen, at the end of the day, Brex helps them make every dollar count. So if you're a fan of smart businesses too, check out Brex at brex.com/metrics. That's brex.com/metrics. That totally checks out. And I want to double down on the fintech portion of Grab's business model. I was looking at your earnings, and congrats. It's one of the fastest growing segments. And I'm curious on how the banking services drive the flywheel effect for the rest of the business model.
So let me kind of explain a little bit how we think about the fintech products. And we have banking products and non-banking products. So becoming a super app, one of the big advantages of being a super app is that you create this ecosystem, right? And the monetization touch points, you have multiple entry points in terms of how you monetize the marketplace. And when I say the marketplace, we're a three-sided marketplace in most places because we have merchants, we have customers, and we have drivers also. Our drivers who deliver everything from passengers to food to everything else. So these ecosystem that you can create for the fintech side, what do we do is we actually, for example, we lend money to drivers. Right? We have a captive audience of drivers. They all need working capital. They all because a lot of these drivers are unable to get a loan in the traditional sense. Because think of it, 60% of Southeast Asians are underbanked or underserved. The penetration of credit card is very low in Southeast Asia. Most Southeast Asians don't have credit cards, right? So again, everything to them is cash or cashless through a digital wallet, effectively. So how do we then help these folks? Is because we know these drivers, they're on our platform, we know how much they earn. I'm willing to actually underwrite them and able to give them some loans to help them also. And that benefits them, benefits retention as these drivers also. So it's a win-win for them. We do the same for merchants also. We offer loans to merchants. We offer loans also to our consumers who we can credit score also at the same time. So, and how we do that? Because we have their data. Like we know how much they're buying, we know what food they're eating, we know where they go, right? We're on the ride hailing. We kind of like profile a customer from their habits and their transaction with us also. And we're able to actually credit score a particular customer that we're willing to offer a loan, offer other services to them. So that's how the fintech comes in. Actually, it's another monetization for our marketplace. In addition to other products that we offer to all these customers.
That's such a logical business step to make because you have asymmetrical information in the sense that a bank wouldn't have on how good of a business is this to underwrite. Like you know how many trips the driver does per day, and also you know that you're making them a stickier node in your network by giving them the resources to succeed. It has two implicit benefits in the sense that you help them drive more business, and then you also are making a really good bet because you know how solid their work ethic and have all the data points on it.
Exactly. It's actually a network effect because these drivers on the platform, we effectively know how much they're earning each day. We know how much the merchants are also earning from our platform also. We kind of have their digital wallet on our platform also. These drivers or these merchants, the reason why they actually are borrowers of us because they're not able to get other loans to their traditional sense, right? They can't just walk up to a bank and say, hey, I want to get a loan. They don't have credit cards. Again, credit cards are not very popular in Southeast Asia. So, then for other sources of capital, they come to Grab. And again, for when we offer these cash or loans to them, their retention is up and the productivity is up. So it's a really win-win for both sides.
I feel like all companies, if they're around long enough, they see themselves evolve into a fintech in some way, shape, or form over time. I'm curious, what was the first step to becoming one? Was it underwriting the drivers? Like, what was the layer cake strategy to dip your toes into the water?
Yeah, we actually started with payments. Digital payments was the first foray into fintech for us. And what we were trying to solve is trying to get Southeast Asians folks to move from cash to cashless.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's strange enough, actually, about a third of our transactions, up to today, is still cash. So you book a car for ride hailing, and at the end of the rides, you give cash to the driver. Like it still happens in Southeast Asia.
That's crazy. I have no cash in my wallet right now. If you checked.
Exactly, right. especially the older generation in Southeast Asia are still using a lot of cash. So we were trying to actually move people away from cash. It's not safe. It's dangerous for drivers to carry cash. Actually, when COVID happened, it really accelerated the cashless in Southeast Asia. Like governments were stepping in and saying, look, we got to move to cashless now, digital wallet. So it really helped us. Now it's much more, the penetration is much more higher. So for these cashless payments for us, it was a way also to make sure that we get to see the level of transaction these customers are able to top up their digital wallet. Right, it gives us a bit of a feel for customers' propensity to spend and etc. And the second product was really lending for us. And how we started was Tribers. Like it's a captive audience for us. And we know, again, just how much they earn. We have their wallet, etc. They pay us on a daily basis. So it's a really nice product for us as an adjacency. And then we've added other products in addition to that along the way.
Thanks for that explanation. That totally brought it into focus for me. Peter, I want to go back to the monthly transacting users, the plus 40 million, not a small number. How important is it to get them using multiple layers of the ecosystem? Do they usually have one entry point and then they start using other components of it? Or just how do you think about monthly transacting users and their importance?
Sure, yeah. And what we've seen actually, Grab has evolved now to what's back in the early years, or even when we had a lot more other products, more of a transactional product services, where we were so happy when a customer used one product or two products. Now, actually, it's more of a lifetime value in terms of how we look at a user now. Again, about 2/3 of our user base, the 42 million, use 2 or 3 products for us, which is really important. And again, part of that is a lot of the cross-selling opportunities for us. Frequency has been really important for us, for customers to come back. We have subscription now as part of our offering today, kind of similar to Dash Pass, Uber One type, where on the delivery side especially, you get lower delivery fees, sometimes you get free delivery, etc. And also that helps retention. It has helped frequency for us. It also has helped basket size for us also. And all these different touch points has been really critical in terms of nudging users to really try out all the different product services. So, and what we want to see over time is actually more and more users using all parts of the different products and services. So like in mobility today, you'd be surprised that a lot of our customers today, we have a lot of choice in our products. That sometimes they're very price sensitive, so we understand that. So we have offerings which are a lot more lower ticket size. Like our two-wheel service is a prime example of that, where it's affordable for most Southeast Asian out there, and also with Southeast Asian, two-wheels is very popular because traffic is crappy here, it's horrible, and also the roads can be very skinny. The cars can't fit. And you need to get a point A to point B. What do? We go through these little lanes to get them into point A to point B in the safest route, obviously. But these two wheels become a very important form of transportation in Southeast Asia.
The way you describe the ecosystem and getting a monthly transacting user to try out new things makes me think that you're more willing to pay to acquire a user because you know that their lifetime value can be increased and spread amongst multiple products.
Exactly, yeah. So when we get a user base, when we've set at the top of the funnel, it's usually a mobility entry point. It's usually a food delivery entry point. It could be they're using our Grab Pay to pay something at the florist or at the 7-Eleven. That's an entry point for us. And what we do is we capture that customer and we try to cross-sell the customer. Now, usually the cross-selling can happen much later, but usually also what happens is if I offer you a food delivery and you order something, I would nudge you to, hey, do you want to add something to this? Do you want to add a bottle of Coke with it? You want to add this? You want to add that, right? All the cross-selling opportunities happens. And we're starting to cross-sell also between food and grocery now. We are also starting to do cross-selling between food to mobility, and mobility to food, etc. And these are really important as part of our lifetime value play.
Yeah, and what strikes me is that the distinction between buyers and sellers is a lot more fluid on your marketplace than others. So, to give you an example, I'm a sneakerhead. I love buying sneakers on applications like Goat or StockX, but I've never sold sneakers, so I'm just a buyer there. But on Grab, I mean, you could be a driver, but also be using the financial services. You could be a driver who needs a ride somewhere too. So like there's this interplay between people who are both buyers and sellers, which expands the lifetime value of users everywhere.
Exactly, CJ, because the way we think about lifetime value is just not the customer who's using our product, but also the drivers themselves are using our products. They're consumers of our product also. They're still, they got to eat, so they got to get food delivered also to their house. And also the beauty, when I think about unique about our business, Southeast Asia, is these drivers are both doing passenger and also are doing all the other forms of deliveries.
Oh,
Right? So if you think about it, which actually is a scale, and it's unique in a way because there's always peaks and troughs, right? If you were just doing food delivery, for an example, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Those are your peak times. And what happens to these drivers during those off times, right? Then they're idling effectively. What do we do as Grab? Because we have so many services, the drivers are always on the job, right? You're doing a passenger, then you're doing a food delivery, then you go back to a passenger, then you're doing a parcel delivery, then you're doing a grocery delivery, right? So the throughput of these drivers in a day is maximized, and that enables them to earn more also at the same time on our ecosystem. So their lifetime value also improves, which is very, very different to, say, if you're just a single vertical user, if you're just only doing food delivery or just you're doing ride hailing, for an example. So that's very unique in our business model. And we're able to actually amortize the costs of these drivers.
totally. And I feel that Instacart, at least in the US, is becoming an advertising company. I was reading through their S1 when they IPO'd, and that was the fastest growing and highest margin business line that they had. And Uber is becoming an advertising company in a lot of ways that happens to give rides. What does the advertising opportunity look like for Grab going forward?
Yeah, sure. I mean, advertising for us actually is another product, part of our super app offering, and which is primarily to our consumers, but also to our merchants. It's more of a younger business for us, about 3 years old for us. And today, we use penetration rate as a way to benchmark how we're progressing in terms of ads. It's 1 point, so the ads revenue is about 1.6% of our deliveries gross merchandise value, which is to us is still quite small. If I compare that to, say, Dash, for an example, I think Dash is over 2%. Instacart, I think, is the north of 3%. So I think we still have ways to go. Now, there's a lot of opportunities in the advertising space for us in Southeast Asia, especially a lot about the advertising that we do are basically on food today. But if you think of, like you mentioned, Instacart, grocery delivery for us is like still a small business today. And there's a lot of runway and upside as we start to actually grow that grocery delivery business, because then it's more transacting users also that we can target with FMCG backing for us, and using a lot of very targeted ads at specific FMCG items. And that could actually also a layer of growth for us in the advertising revenue line.
That's exciting. I'm really pumped to see what you'll do there. Peter, I can tell that you're really passionate about Southeast Asia as a tech hub. And I want to transition to talk a bit about what you're seeing there, because I feel like Southeast Asia often gets overlooked as a region, as a hub for tech talent and innovation. And, there's this focus on India and China and looking at the populations there and tech adoption. But Southeast Asia often gets overlooked as this monolith that people don't understand or maybe take the time to dig into. Why do you think that's the case?
Yeah. Again, to your point, a lot of our investors, for an example, also a lot of the community really outside of Southeast Asia really focused on India, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and also maybe China, or definitely China. So there's a lot of focus around that area, and people kind of forget about the south of these countries, right? We exist. 660 million people. But what you're seeing is because, like I said, because there's a younger generation. And what you're finding is a lot of these younger generations are going to school, going to get their education, for those who can afford it, outside of Southeast Asia. Like they're going to the US, they're going to UK, they're going to Japan, right, to get their education. And what happens is that you've got these influx of talent there are just, if you compare say 5-10 years to where we are today, the talent pool in Southeast Asia, especially in tech, has just gone much better. The pool has really broadened, and it's pretty good holiday destination for a lot of things. You can do a lot of fun stuff here also. So I think it's drawing just a different crowd domestically, just homegrown, but also it's drawing also folks from outside coming into Southeast Asia. I mean, we've seen it directly. We're a big benefit. We're obviously a big employer of a lot of the tech scene here in Southeast Asia, and we're used to be just Singapore, because that's where we're headquarters. Like you just recruit everything out of Singapore. But now we have tech centers in Vietnam. We have tech centers in Indonesia, very big one. We have tech centers in Malaysia, because the talent there is getting much better. And that's great, because this is what we want actually in Southeast Asia.
Well, 10 years ago, I was helping a software company create a footprint in Asia and Southeast Asia in particular. And we chose Singapore as the jumping off point. We thought it would be easier to localize the tech. There were more English speakers. But to your point, I think there are a lot more cities that you could start and branch out and make that kind of your landing ground.
That's right. Yeah. If you look at the tech scene today, it used to be just Singapore. Everything was birthed out of Singapore. Now you got tech scenes. Indonesia's big in tech scenes. A lot of unicorns also in Indonesia. You've got tech scenes coming out of Vietnam now, in Thailand, which is great to see. And part of that also is more capital also now. VCs are really supporting the community there. And also, again, a lot of these folks, a lot of these tech entrepreneurs also have been exposed to the US. They've seen how it works, and they can adopt and adapt some of those learnings back to their homeland. And that's great to see. And the tech scene is actually now more and more becoming a really growing sector in Southeast Asia.
Well, speaking of that, if you had to give advice to a tech company in the West who's looking to come over, what advice would you give them based on your experience there? And you could hit on it in any way. It could be the execution of how to go to market and the playbook there, or just cultural norms to be aware of.
It's a very big population size. So again, it could be overwhelming. Again, start in a city, because there's a lot of cities. Start in a country, pick a country. Because people here, most of them speak English anyway. So you've got Singapore, usually is a very popular hub to start, because it's very friendly, very business friendly. And the tax laws and the compliance laws are all very, very friendly to business. Everybody speaks English here. So it's like you said, but your software company that you mentioned 10 years ago, it's a natural place for people to gravitate and really start here. Bit expensive to live, hence why people are now transitioning out to even hubs like Indonesia, or even Malaysia is another one. Malaysia is also a very English-speaking country. There's a lot of folks who actually have studied abroad. That's also another good launching pad for startups there. But really, I think one of the things that we've learned in Grab is actually to really localize your product. I think that's really important, to really understand the local needs and really just manufacture the products around kind of their product market fit, around kind of what they need and want. And what you do in that one country may not work in another Southeast Asian country. So you got to go in there and say, okay, what are the behaviors of the country? How do people interact, etc. And you need to adapt to those things.
That totally makes sense. And I have to applaud you too, because I was reading through the earnings, and one of the core principles it seems like the company operates by is to actually increase the economic activity in the area. So you seem very driven to helping the people succeed and kind of build their own mini businesses within Grab.
That's actually a credit to our founder, Anthony Tan, who's our CEO also. Our mission is to drive Southeast Asia forward. And that's on his heart, it's on his arms, on his chest. Like it's all about driving Southeast Asia forward. And what he does, or how he views it, is that how do we empower Southeast Asians, especially for the marginalized and also for those who are also for those who are in the informal economy. If you look at our drivers today, a good portion of our drivers were from the informal economy. Like we are their first kind of job that they've got.
Right.
And that's really important. And we're able to enrich their lives by earnings on a platform. And also we're able to give them loans also to support their family, put their kids through education. And we do a lot of retraining also for drivers to upskill them because they don't want to be drivers for the rest of their lives. They want to do something different. So we help them to reskill these drivers. So that's really important. And also, how do we also help merchants also inside? There's over 60 million merchants in Southeast Asia. How do we also digitize them? And that's what we've been doing, actually, digitizing these merchants, especially the small mom and pop shop, and really putting them online on our platform was one of the big steps that a lot of these merchants actually came on. COVID was really an interesting period of time where a lot of the merchants were offline. And when COVID hit, they were dying. So we worked with governments. Okay, you know what? We're going to scramble and bring as many merchants, especially food merchants, so they can survive on the Grab platform itself. And that's really important. It's core to our mission in how to empower, enrich also the Southeast Asians.
The digitization of the merchants, that's super intriguing because you're basically taking a business that may be a mom and pop store where the awareness is only the people in the surrounding 4 or 5 streets, and you're giving them increased channels of distribution that they didn't have before.
Yeah, I mean, I have many stories, and when I visit a lot of the countries, and I visit a lot of the merchants, and I've met a lot of merchants where before, especially during COVID, they only had one store. It was an offline store, and we came in there, brought them in our platform. We gave them a digital device. We gave them digital wallets, and their business now has thrived where they've added 8, 9, 10 stores. And a couple of them actually gone public in the local exchange because they've been so successful. There's one pizza chain which has done amazingly well in one country. But that's really core to our founders' heart, where we're able to actually digitize them, able to also expand their business at the same time. But we still have a long way to go. I think we still have. We always say we only serve 1 in 20 Southeast Asians, and we can do much more. And this is why our mission still needs to continue on and bring more users and merchants into our platform.
Are there any interactions, if you're willing to share one, that stick with you? Maybe even the pizza one. Did you say that company went public?
So there's this pizza chain in one country. I won't name the country so you can't really see. I need permission from the pizza merchant for me to say the name. But when he started, it was just one store. And again, it was like a typical mom and pop shop. And then when it came online, it just took off. It was COVID, so people needed to eat. And we were able to really just get his business, and we promoted his business, we pushed his business, he bought advertising with us, and that just started. And from then on, he was able to add another store, and another store, and another store, and so on and so on. So he's just expanded that completely. And there's many other stories. There's the chicken rice shop, there's the noodle shop, right? Like the biryani shop, right? I think, and that's what really matters. Like for us, really is we're digitizing the Southeast Asian economy.
That's amazing. It sounds like the tech truly is pulling people into the future and creating opportunities. And I wanted to hit on that. Can you talk about Grab's proprietary tech? I know the mapping system is one element of it. I believe it's tailored to local needs.
Exactly. Again, going back to the localization, which is really important, the map is a very critical piece for us. We were using third-party maps. And again, Southeast Asia is a very complex road system, which sometimes changes on a daily basis. And the road system also disappears sometime and as it comes back. So it's really ever-changing. And the third-party map that we were using was just inaccurate. Like people were booking a ride. Hey, pick me up here. And it was like on the other side. It's like, that's not bad customer experience. Or we were transporting a customer or something and they wouldn't take the little alley lanes because that particular third-party map didn't map it. Didn't exist in the map. Right? And they said, look, this has got to stop. So what did we do? we mapped Southeast Asia. We literally mapped Southeast Asia.
My
Like
goodness.
700 cities now is on our platform. And what that does is actually, because and the way we did it was through crowdsourcing. Like we didn't just put these big cars, four-wheelers with cameras at the top circling the streets like traditionally how third-party maps do. We said, that's not going to work. Like we have so many cities, and remember these little lanes that these cars will never fit. So what do? We said, you know what? We have a lot of drivers. We have 6 million of them, all right? Some of them walk when they do their food delivery. Some of them cycle. Some of them have two-wheelers. Some of them have four-wheelers. Why don't we put cameras on them and map it? They're our eyes effectively, right? So it's crowdsourcing mapping effectively. And we pay them to do it. Like they can earn more. There's no downside for them. All they got to do is carry a map, right? So what we did was we built our own map, built our own cameras, and we built everything's on the cloud for us. And today, what we've got is a very localized Southeast Asian map, which is continuously mapping. Like every second, we get data back from our drivers from everywhere because we do so many transactions. And that's really been very unique for us because we can improve routing, we can improve safety also through this routing system. We can monitor the speed because we know how fast they're driving also, and how erratic are they driving also, right? Also, we've started now to map indoors because half the battle of food delivery is actually the indoor component. Like, okay, where do I park? Which floor is the restaurant again? Which level is it again? Which exit do I take to get from the restaurant from the mall to the restaurant? Like every second counts for these drivers. So you got to make it as efficiently as possible. So we started to map indoors, like malls, especially, and apartment complexes. So it's something unique that we do as a technology stack that we do. We also have our payment stack. We don't use third party. Fraud is really very, very prevalent here in Southeast Asia. So we build our own fraud tool internally also. So a lot of these things we just products that we just needed because third party was just not good enough or sufficient enough for us to really scale in the size that we have as our business.
I know it was complicated, but you probably look back at it like this is a competitive moat now. Like if somebody wants to compete with us, we already built this.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not easy to kind of replicate what we did from a tech perspective, from a localization perspective, and also just it's very regulated also in the industry that we operate in here to get all those licenses and permissions and all these requirements from states and cities and provinces, everything else. And it's taken 13 years for us to kind of get to where we are today.
I empathize as someone with a terrible sense of direction. I get lost in malls, parking lots everywhere. So I could use your app. Peter, I'm going to take you into what we call our long ass lightning round. So the first question I ask everybody, you're a successful guy, but what's an example of something you screwed up on the job? It could be any role you've had in your career.
I'm really big on forecast accuracy. You can ask my team.
Yeah.
Peter's pedantic on forecast accuracy. I have a very low tolerance for deltas. And why is that? Because back in my earlier careers, I made a few not good choices when it comes to forecast accuracy. And those could be like simple Excel spreadsheets. And one clear example was, when you're trying to guide a business and help them hit a revenue line that you're on your outlook. And when you screw up on an Excel error or you got the trajectory wrong, your assumption was off, that's bad. Yeah. So that always has been ingrained in my mind. Double check your work. And I always my team, how accurate was your forecast? How much were you off?
Yeah. Every forecast is ultimately wrong. It's just a question of how wrong was it?
Exactly.
Last one I got for you. If you could tell your younger self something, knowing what you know today, what would you tell him?
Yeah. I would say to myself, Peter, learn how to code.
Okay.
In the field that I do, in the tech space, I wish I know how to do SQL. I wish I know how to code. I think it would just go as finance people using a lot of data. I think it just gives you superpowers.
That's a great one. We haven't had that one on the show yet. Peter, this has been an absolute pleasure, a blast. You're an easy guy to have a conversation with, and congrats on all the success so far.
Thank you, CJ. It's been fun. Yeah, anytime.
Run the Numbers is a mostly LLC production. Yelling an intro by Fat Joe. Artwork by some AI thingamajig. Podcast and video editing is done by Cleancast at cleancast.io. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of me, a guy who feeds his dog too much ice cream and has a history of net operating losses, lol. If you like this podcast, please hit subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And also check out mostlymetrics.com. That's my newsletter where I explore business models and financial metrics. Thanks for riding with me. Share this with your friends. Peace.